biggest mistake I ever made in security. Go.
I had the privilege of being the owner and operator of Intrusion Prevention System, IPS, at a very large critical infrastructure company. And unfortunately, when we were doing business VPN connectivity, we fried all the circuits by blocking everything from coming in and going out, by the way. So stopping an entire critical infrastructure from operating for too long was my biggest mistake in security.
It's time to begin the CISO Series podcast, recorded in front of a live audience in New York City.
All right, welcome everybody to the CISO Series podcast. My name is David Spark. I am the host and MC and the producer of the CISO series. Sitting to my immediate left is the CISO over at Oscar Health, none other than Nick Vigier. Let's hear it for Nick. Nick, say hello to the audience.
Hi, audience.
That is the sound of Nick's voice. Now, we're available at CISOseries.com, and our sponsor for today's episode and the sponsor of the event that we're at, which is called AI SOC Live, it is Intezer. AI SOC for Enterprise automatically triage, investigate, and respond to every alert at unmatched speed and accuracy. Let's hear it for our sponsor, Intezer. So we are, Nick, we are at the NASDAQ doing this show. It's pretty darn cool. I found out that you, if you lost money on the NASDAQ, you can't ask for it back when you get here. No, not at all.
Not at all.
It doesn't work at all.
It's yours to lose.
All right, we have a completely packed show today, so I want to bring in our guest to my far left, sitting right over there, our sponsored guest from Intezer, the field CISO, Mitchum Bowles. Let's hear it for Mitchum. Say hello to the audience, Mitch.
Hello, audience. Glad to be here.
It's time to measure the risk.
Risk ownership isn't binary. The honest answer is co-ownership, and the split depends on how the risk entered the conversation. If the CISO surfaced the risk clearly, quantified it honestly, and the business chose to accept it with full information, the business owns that outcome. But if the risk was never raised, was poorly framed, or was buried in a slide deck no one was meant to act on, that's on the CISO, and CISOs make decisions about what to raise or not raise every day, all day. That's ownership. Now, that's all a quote from the former co-host of Defense in Depth, one of our other shows, Alan Alford, now at NTT Global Data Centers. And he's talking about who owns risk in an organization. And we hear it all the time, well, the business owns the risk. But Alan points out that in many cases, the CISO does own it, whether it's been revealed or not. So I want to know from you first, Nick, do you agree with this sort of, I guess, shared responsibility of risk ownership? What do you think?
I don't think I'm allowed to disagree with Alan ever, but...
you can disagree with Alan, it's okay.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it comes down to responsibilities and accountabilities to a large extent. And so part of our job is making sure that no one's ever surprised, and that's definitely part of the conversation. And then also helping to inform risk-based decision-making. So our accountability is there, but I mean, we also obviously own risks. I think it's a mistake to think that we just get to shovel it off to everybody else. It's definitely part of the operating model.
And I mean, I think this is really a good point that Alan makes is you don't tell the business about all the risks, right? Because that they'd be drowning in it. It's like it would be like decision paralysis, wouldn't it?
It's not about telling them all of the individual risks. Like when I talk about risk, it's also about bubbling it up into themes and helping them understand how these things are trending and what the composite is around that. So it's how you contextualize it. It's how you bring it together into a larger narrative and then figuring out what it means to actually get it managed if that's in the risk appetite.
All right, I'm throwing this to you, Mitch. Same concept. We're talking about who owns the risk. By default, we assume the business. But there are times, as a security professional, you need to take it on. Maybe you can tell me about risks that you normally don't tell the business about.
Well, I think that's why there's E&O insurance, right? I mean, I think that the ownership of the business is definitely part of the case of having actual valid queries of things that are going on from risks, being able to know whether something is legitimate or not. That's up to the business to accept the final risk on, because the business, after all, is what is making both the money and the decisions at a board level. Now, with an executive CISO or a CISO that's on a board, that's a different story, and there are some other aggregated items that they're able to perform with. But from that standpoint, risks that I see are quite common, are put together in a way so that they are an amalgamation of what is actually going on in the business from a security sense, taking that context and actually making sure that it's raised to the right people in a way that they can understand, that often gets left out. It's often too technical and doesn't have or give the context for a board or an executive team to make the right decision on the risk.
All right, so just so we know what we're talking about here, give me an example of that. Like, what would be something you just would not bring up to the board or to the C-suite?
Well, I think number one that we've seen before has been just the number of vulnerabilities you have in an organization. It could be software vulnerabilities. It could be something that's the applications that you're actually using to run scripts or other things that administrators are doing that somehow the business has allowed to have happen but shouldn't be allowed. And so that is something that is common, that is never brought up to the board.
Right, but that brings up a good point, is that these are kind of risks that exist, but they're kind of the building blocks of a larger risk. Yes, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our job is to help synthesize these things. So it's not just, oh, here's a list of risks and a whole laundry list. It's here's what the thematic root cause is of that thing that may lead to then a whole bunch of other risks. And so it's really about how do you help them understand where investment can be made to address a risk that has with it a significant amount of impact in terms of addressing a number of risks. So you're helping to advise on investments to some extent as well.
Is AI going to help us or hurt us?
AI's impact on security. Quote, I'm short-term pessimistic, but wildly long-term optimistic. That's Phil Venables of Ballistic Ventures, who believes things are going to get very bad before they get better. More AI-generated code means more vulnerabilities and a larger surface. Trillions of autonomous agents producing behaviors we've never seen before. And is anyone expecting a policy document anytime soon? For now, Venables has a sound prescription of strong baselines, continuous control monitoring, and speed. But are any security programs built for this upcoming tidal wave? Some of what we have in place will hold, but a lot will not. I'm going to start with you, Mitch, on this. From the software vulnerability exposures, unforeseen attack paths, and autonomous agents acting with impunity, what do you think is going to collapse first?
Well, the easiest thing to collapse first is anything that's unprotected. And so the exposure that most organizations have to the outside world with their enablement of all these applications, vibe coding, whatever connections are being made, are the easiest source of that vulnerability making sense. However, identity is the one thing that exists everywhere. So being able to secure that first as a baseline makes total sense. I mean, it is the practical prescription for what to actually do in the sense of trying to protect yourself, because no matter what the volume of alerts are, and no matter how sophisticated the attacks are, there is something that currently, or at least in the near term, will be all about using the structure or infrastructure that's already there.
What do you think, Nick?
I mean, I think this whole environment is really about just getting back to basics. If you've done the identity basics the right way, you've done system change and continuous change the right way, like that's what's going to make you resilient to this. We've survived for a long time living on a merry-go-round. It just doesn't go very fast. You don't get thrown off of it. And now we're riding a centrifuge, and you're going to get blown apart.
I like that analogy right there, from merry-go-round to centrifuge. Yeah, this is going to speed up, because like we can't survive a centrifuge. We can survive a merry-go-round, and that is a good way of putting it. It's at a speed that we're not ready for.
Yeah, if you don't have the bolts tightened exactly at the right tolerances, you can get blown apart. And I think companies will be laid bare by where they don't have strong habits and rhythms around certain areas of security and overall discipline of maintenance.
So going back to what you said, Mitch, it's vulnerabilities. We're going to get a lot more exposed very quickly. We've never succeeded with vulnerability management in terms of getting everything. And also, I've spoken to a lot of vulnerability management companies, and we know that the number that you're exposed to, really only like 20 to 30% is what you really need to care about, because those are the things that really affect your environment. Do the vulnerability management companies, my feeling is they're not architected to handle this at all. What do you think?
I think we see it from a SOC perspective is no one was architected for this. We've had great ideas for actually doing security, but at the end of the day, if you're not architected to handle the volume and the flow and having actual accuracy on the out of the box and being able to compare, especially in vulnerability management, from all the vulnerabilities that will exist, not just that exist today, that's a whole nother level. And I think they're going to be blown apart by just, unfortunately, the lack of architecture that exists for what tomorrow's threats, or even really today for that matter, are.
Who's our sponsor this week?
It is Intezer. This is the event that we're at. Intezer Forensic AI SOC is designed for enterprises managing high alert volumes across SIEM, EDR, network, identity, phishing, and cloud systems. These organizations often rely on MDRs to fill coverage gaps, but face frustration with limited visibility, too many escalations, and missed incidents hiding in low severity alerts. Intezer enables these enterprises to regain control, improve accuracy, and scale operations without adding costly headcount, combining automation, explainability, and forensics depth to protect the business as it grows. If you want to learn more about this, you got to go to their website. It's intezer.com, and let me spell that for you. intezer.com, intezer.com. And when you go, let them know you heard about them from the CISO series.
It's time to play What's Worse?
For those of you who are listeners of the CISO series podcast, let's hear it by applause. How many people have heard this show before? By applause. Oh, by the way, CISO, I said by applause, he raises his hand. Good job, Cecil. They can't hear that. All right, so this game, which we've been doing, I think, since episode 1, is a risk management exercise. Both stink. You're not going to like either one of them, but you have to decide from a risk perspective which one's worse. And you will like this because it's not the traditional risk you think about. I will set it up that way. And we get these from our audience as well. So if you have a great what's worse scenario, please send them in. We're always looking for great what's worse scenarios. Okay, here we go. Comes from Neil Saltman of Ahead, who has sent us lots of good ones. This is the setup. A third party outside your company had a breach and it's shown up in your environment. Not good. Customer data was exposed, and neither your security team nor your monitoring controls caught it first. Which one is worse? Scenario number 1. You're on vacation, and you promised your spouse you would not work over vacation no matter what. The day you come back from vacation, you need to report to the board. Or you've got a 10-person team, and your top 3 people are on vacation. Which scenario is worse? I will start with you, Nick.
Oh, man. Having received that call on vacation, I'll definitely...
And by the way, did you promise your spouse you would not work?
I always promise. It just never pans out.
Okay.
For me, that's the one that's definitely worse.
It's not that your 3 best people are out?
No, I think we can work with that. The coming back blind and then having to explain why you didn't answer the phone, yeah, that's not going to be a good look.
That makes a good point. All right. But so Cody, so you have had this happen. You've gotten called and you're like, I'm not going on the boat trip today, honey. I'm staying in the hotel room and I'm dealing with this.
150%.
You have done that.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It did not go well.
I'm sure it did not. Then again, you wanted to go on the boat trip, right?
Absolutely, because I was going diving.
There you go. All right. All right. Mitchum, do you agree or disagree with this scenario?
I agree that the real boss is going to be the one who I'm really in trouble with for long term, so I don't want to mess that up. However, not having the people to do the work to help me get that board report ready would probably be more impactful, and I think that I could probably get that done while on vacation. So I feel like, unfortunately...
So which one, hold it, which one is worse?
So the second one is my pick for better, and so the first one is worse.
So you agree that the first scenario is far worse?
It is for me personally.
So I'm just going to argue this a little bit here. So... You're in the office, your 3 best people who you lean on all the time are not around and you're dealing with the worst day. you still can stomach this. This is better than the vacation scenario.
Claude and I can stomach it, yes.
All right, good point, Claude.
Yeah, we have infinite staff now, just tokens.
All right, I'm going to throw this to the audience. All right. By applause, I'm going to start with the second scenario, see if anyone's voting for that one. Remember, you're voting for the worst scenario here. All right, by applause, the second scenario, you have a 10-person team and your top 3 people are on vacation. Again, applaud if you think that is the worst scenario. By applause. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Pity applause.
Thank you very much. So everyone else, first scenario, you think that's a far worse scenario by applause? All right. All right, I guess it's unanimous. I thought it'd be far more equal, but I was completely wrong.
What are they talking about?
All right, we have another game. And this game we have played before. Are you guys familiar with the Dick Clark game show, $100,000 Pyramid? Yeah, so the idea is they would say things and you would hear that and you say, things somebody would say in this, or it might be a inanimate object, like things that this would say. So we ask these questions of security professionals, and I will set you up if it's what a CISO would say, or if it's a vendor, an inanimate object, and you have to determine what was the question. If you can't get it right, I'm going to throw it to the audience, all right?
All right.
So just jump in, let it play itself out, and then jump in if you think you know what the question is. Again, remember, you're coming up with the question, you're hearing the answers, and you're going to hear multiple people give the answers. We got 4 rounds. Here's round 1.
Currently, I'm on PTO, so please don't bother me.
Busy talking to the SREs.
Dealing with a fire. I'll get back with you as soon as I can.
You may not hear from me tomorrow or ever.
Are you available to take this vendor pitch?
No, but it's something a CISO would say. The question is when? When would a CISO say this? I can play it again.
Currently, I'm on PTO, so please don't bother me.
Busy talking to the SREs.
Dealing with a fire. I'll get back with you as soon as I can.
You may not hear from me tomorrow or ever.
We have your annual review ready and we need to talk.
You want to try this? If you don't get this,
No, I'll take a pass.
All right,
I'm
audience,
stuck on
yell
my
it out.
answer.
What do you think? It's what a CISO would say.
For their out-of-office message.
Out-of-office message. Who said that? Right there. Way to go, Beth. Good job. Okay. All right, audience 1, Mitch 0, Nick 0.
0.
All right, here we go. Here's the second one.
Thanks, Beth.
This is an inanimate object, it's an inanimate thing. All right, here you go.
I will kindly return all your data after you transfer me 22 Bitcoin.
For just $10,000, you'll be able to go back to work.
Your data is only on a payment plan.
It would be in your best interest to pay up.
What would ransomware say?
Okay, yes, but there's one twist. I want to look at. So I'm going to give you half a point. It's what ransomware would say
when you get a text from them.
Listen again.
I will kindly return all your data after you transfer me 22 Bitcoin.
For just $10,000, you'll be able to go back to work.
Your data is only on a payment plan.
It would be in your best interest to pay up.
Spam email.
No, it's correct. It's what ransomware would say if
they had your data.
Okay, I'm going to throw in this to the audience. What ransomware would say if
you want to do extortion?
Extortion? No. Yell it loud.
If it were written by AI?
If it were written by AI, no.
If you refuse to pay?
No. I'm going to be 0 points all the way around.
I got a half.
You got a half point. Yes,
I got a half.
You got a half point.
I'm halfway to Beth.
It's what ransomware would say if it were trying to be polite. You see, that it was being polite. All right, here's another inanimate object for you. Get ready.
Grab me, plug me, and be surprised.
Pick me up. Put me in. I'm here to help.
Let's hook up.
Please put me in your computer.
Okay.
Things a USB drive would say.
Okay, I'm giving you another half point. I'm giving you another half point.
If you found it on the ground.
Bingo, you get a full point. There you go. All right, good job.
Yes, sir.
All right, good job on that one. All right, last one. Mitchum,
I know.
You're not even on the board.
I know.
Point and a half, 1 point to the audience, 0 for you. All right, here we go. This one, I'm going to give you a hint. It is what a vendor would say, but what's the situation, okay?
Why don't we connect through LinkedIn and keep in touch?
Good luck getting it to work. It never actually worked here either.
Can I give you a call when I land in my new job?
when you get a no from the customer?
No. What a vendor would say, and you can try again. You can just keep giving answers. You don't have to wait for him to answer.
First meeting at a conference?
I'm going to play it again for you.
Why don't we connect through LinkedIn and keep in touch?
Good luck getting it to work. It never actually worked here either.
Can I give you a call when I land in my new job?
Who just said that? Who just said that? All right, say it out loud, louder again.
When they're leaving the organization.
Yes, what a vendor says when they're making their very last sales call. Good job, all right. All right, so 2 points for the audience, 1.5 points for you, 0 for Mitchum. The audience wins. Let's hear it for the audience.
What about this AI security challenge?
Quote, a CISO of a very large tech company has eliminated their entire SOC team. Not downsized, not restructured, eliminated, with AI handling triage and research while engineers authorize responses. Richard Stennon of IT Harvest is predicting we'll see similar moves across the industry in months, not years, and MSSPs that don't pivot now are doomed. We know SOC automation is coming. At this point, the interesting question is, what makes it hard to get there? What are the organizational, technical, and data quality obstacles that slow the transition down? And how do we work through them? I'm talking to you, Mitchum, first, without creating gaps we can't see until something breaks, because that's usually what happens when we're dealing with new tech. So what do you think?
Well, I think that it's a knee-jerk reaction, obviously, from what's happening and the speed of things that are moving. However, that knee-jerk reaction, yes, you could always put autonomy into anything. But if your accuracy isn't there, then, of course, you're going to break a whole bunch of things internally, and you won't find out until after that's shut the business down, maybe like my major mistake that I mentioned at the beginning. From an organizational and technical side, I mean, the ability to actually go and execute is a requirement of a security team. And so I don't believe that you can execute unless you have full context awareness, policies, you name it, on everything that you're doing for a security team to be successful for the business. And so that's a huge issue when you talk about the obstacles that exist are who is going to take the call when something does go down, who's going to go fix it, who's going to even look in the first place that something isn't working, and who knows to talk to the security team if there is no security team there anymore. And not to mention, I think that the data side of things is where the ownership of these individuals who have worked in the context of their organization and owned it all this time, once they are not there anymore, you realize you don't know much about your organization at all when you lose that tribal knowledge.
All right, this is a huge shift to go 100% automated, scary as hell. I would say today, very scary, but I can totally see it happening one day, but it's already happening. What do you think, Nick?
I mean, I think you're definitely going to see it. It's going to be a question of organizations getting that comfort level with the playbooks, the automation, and everything else. But you can't automate it if you don't have the right context around what you even have. You have the right observability to know what's happening, to then feed it into the automation and the AI to be reliable. And then being able, like an organization that doesn't have like infrastructure as code, for example, is never going to be able to do this. So it isn't just about what the security team wants to do in terms of automating. It's your organization's ability and how it operates to be able to then do that automation as well. So that confidence is going to come over time.
I also think we need a low-risk, high-need event. I'm going to throw out this one example, and this is a theory that I've had for a while. I believe it was when the 4th Harry Potter book came out. Barely anybody was using e-commerce. Like barely anyone. It was, and Amazon existed, and I think there were only books at the time. And they got exclusive rights to sell that book. And so this is a $20 item, high demand, low risk in terms of it's $20, right? It sold like mad, and I think a lot of people that they got their first taste of e-commerce at that moment. I think we're going to need kind of a Harry Potter book moment, something that's high demand, low risk, so everyone can see the value and then just go charging for it. Because, I mean, look at e-commerce before and after that date. It just exploded afterwards. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that's where proof of value comes in. If you can prove something that's happening in the midst of something of your normal day-to-day operations, and then all of a sudden you can point to something that is the total opposite of it, not only have you averted something that could have been maybe sometimes, in this case, a breach, or something that could have been much worse, and then you're able to see that, take action on it, and actually show the use case. And I think of email security tools that plugged in via API and all of a sudden stopped an invoice from going out. Doing the same thing with a major alert that comes through and having it critical that you never saw before. Being able to take an action on it, review it, and then being able to break out from that shows you the quick value and doesn't mean you have to live through the breach. And the breach is the exact opposite of that event that you just described, because then that has everybody's eyes on it and is high value.
Right. So you don't, like what I said at the beginning, you don't want for the problem to exist for you to then realize it. You want essentially the opposite of that, the $20 Harry Potter book solution. So I don't even know what that would be at this point. Any idea?
I think a lot of it, where this has started to play out on my team is really, I don't want people flipping burgers. I want them doing valuable work. And so it's really about what is the high volume, low risk type of work that's happening, and then how do you automate it and get it off your plate so you can go focus on the next thing that then becomes that thing that you then automate and move on. So it's really about how you start knocking a lot of these really high value, low effort, high predictability type of automations in order to move you to the next step. And then AI is going to help with the things that are a little more ambiguous.
And have you must have been doing something in this respect, yes?
Absolutely.
Just give me an example of something you've done so far.
A perfect example for us is the amount of time we were wasting investigating international travel alerts. And it was because we had a bad process with HR on requesting access, and it wasn't operationalizable. So we automated it all and turned it that goes into a database and then auto triages before it even hits an analyst's desk as to whether or not it's known travel.
That's a perfect example. You got a good example?
I think phishing awareness, having just a deluge of phishing alerts that you look at, there's such a high probability that they're a false positive. Being able to clear those out and know exactly what you're actually looking at so that you don't have to review all those and you can actually look at something that is tangible and actually actionable is what you want people to be focused on.
Are we creating more problems?
Quote, many SOCs are not slow only because of alert volume or limited data. They are slow because decision rights are unclear when speed matters most. End quote. Zoran Savic of Animal argues that the race to automate the SOC is solving the wrong problem. More AI generates more signals, analysts review more outputs, validation layers multiply, all leading to more hesitation. The bottleneck isn't intelligence, it's decision ownership. So how do we define decision rights clearly enough that automation can actually execute against them? I'm going to start with you, Nick. And how do we get comfortable pre-approving actions so the autonomous agents can act at machine speed? So this is kind of a nice sort of follow on our last set.
Yeah. So my mindset, what we try to measure is actually mean time to decision.
Oh, that's a
as
good
opposed
one.
To mean time to detect or mean time to respond. Mean time to decision
by the way,
is your biggest gap.
There's so many variations of mean time to respond, mean time to remediate, mean time to contain, a zillion. But I like mean time to decision. That's excellent.
That's your biggest gap. Once you've made a decision, you know what to do. And so making sure that you have the right context available to make those decisions becomes really important. So whether it's with your HR data, your asset inventory data, everything else, and then that starts to drive down what information do I need to be able to give to someone, and that information usually contains the someone in some way, shape, or form to make a decision quickly. And it doesn't have to be security.
That's very good. I love the mean time to decision. We're going to come back to that. What are your thoughts on this in terms of the sort of decision paralysis? And it could be, just a classic problem when you have too many things, you don't know what to do next.
Well, I think it's because humans are trying to go through those too many things that they've caused this problem themselves. And so they don't have time to think about it. They don't have time to look at who should make the decision on those things. But also, I think that's misplaced at times in this idea of a tiered SOC model. I think that being able to remove the tiers and having real decisions made, once you have an accurate level of this autonomy only comes from when you have enough accuracy that you trust it. We've never had that in the industry. There are too many issues with it. And so that's a big solution point point for anything that happens in security is knowing what is actually going to happen. If I can validate and look at this from an investigation standpoint all the way in my history and know that the verdict is correct, then I can have autonomy, and then I can make decisions on the things that are the most risky to the business. I have this risk alignment with my risk appetite.
So my feeling is, like, just in any decision-making process, this is not going to happen overnight. But like in the example you gave about the sort of the travel alerts that you were getting, I'm sure you put decisions around that, yes?
Yeah, we figure.
So, explain.
And a lot of this, too, is the opportunity to revisit with the business of why are we even doing this thing? And so it was going back to HR, going back to legal, like, why do you actually care? Turns out it was a tax reason, not anything else. And so trying to help frame where that process was breaking down and where we didn't have the right information then helped us figure out what decisions need to be made in this process now, and completely revamped everything so that now we have accurate data as opposed to a whole bunch of garbage.
So that, to me, looks just like doing policies and having known business operations, but you have to take time to tease that out, and you have to know what's not working currently to then move to that stair-stepper effect, like you mentioned earlier, on what you do next and what do you focus on. And so being able to remove people from the slog of whatever they are working in to make decisions that are actionable, then that's how you get to the next step, the next risk level, the next ability to make something more autonomous so that you can pre-approve those actions once you know what to take.
Hold on, I want to drill down on that thing right there. I think what's interesting is if you can architect a decision tree to make a decision, so I'm getting a little meta here, but the idea is for each thing that you need to make a decision on, you have to have a tiered level of sort of acceptance of it. And ultimately, you want to get to the point of full automation, yes?
And your tolerance for getting it wrong.
Or the reversibility is also the issue come out. I want you to sort of walk us through this sort of, I guess, the decision tree idea. And like, give me an idea of like from the top of the funnel all the way down.
So I think about it like this. When you have something that comes in, an alert that comes in from an endpoint, and it says, hey, there's ransomware here, I know immediately that if that ransomware spreads, I'm now going to have a worse off after effect if I don't take action autonomously and I just let it spread through the network and then have to clean everything up. So that risk acceptance level is pretty easy for most organizations. That's step one. Then you move on to the next item that may be something more tangible. What happens if this is a production system that has my critical operational data on it, or I'm a manufacturer and I need to let this continue running because that's my money-making opportunity and business risk? Then that becomes a much different opportunity that you say, okay, do we actually want to have this pre-approved? Do we need to do this in the firefight? And I think everybody would agree, no, you don't want to make that decision when you're in the middle of fighting the fire. That's the whole point of tabletops and the outcome that they should be. And so just like you do tabletops for real business risk and converging that with the idea of a security operations team or whatever it is, that you're actually able to see the outcome as you're looking at it from a business decisions when you're not stuck, again, in this slop or the slog that we've all had to deal with for so long. And this is the benefit of really bringing AI into the mix.
It's time for the audience question speed round.
So I've got a bunch of questions here from this audience, and I'm looking for your answers to these. So we're going to get through as many as we can with the time that we've got, and we're doing pretty well. So this comes from Jim McDonough of Intezer, our wonderful sponsor here. I'm interested to know, so we're recording this at the very tail end of April. What are you planning now that you were not thinking about in January? So just literally months ago, obviously because Claude Mythos has come out, so a lot of planning I'm sure has changed. What are you thinking now that you were not thinking in January?
My personal planning is just to have an AI assistant that acts just like a business and office assistant would, so that I can crank through a lot more at work and in life for those kinds of things. My wife and I have joked that she has an idea for an app called Mom Brain, which basically allows all the different things that she has to deal with on a day-to-day basis to flow in. I think it's the same thing for all of us in our daily jobs that make a lot of an impact for what we're trying to do.
So the idea is get rid of the flipping burgers of your personal life Oh, I like that.
Exactly.
All right, Nick.
I can relate to that, having used Claude Desktop to automate my child's Google Classroom to figure out what homework she has. So it's, but I think from a company perspective, we'd already had the notion around let's do better with identity, let's do better with AI governance and AI controls and whatnot. I think what it's done is it's accelerated and probably also increased the size of the investment that we need to make in order to get ahead and figure out where we need to overinvest actually in order to get through.
All right. This one comes from Pavi Ramamurthy of Blackhawk. All right. Today, and I know it's going to be a very different story for you, Mitchum, than it is for you, Nick. Do you know how much, and give us a rough number, do you know how much of your budget is going to AI? And sort of a second part to that question is, do you know how you're going to fund that?
So my budget, I think everything's going into AI one way or the other. So, I mean, I'll say 100%, right?
Well,
but
not today 100%. You still have staff.
No, true. No, so like just from a tools investment perspective, I mean, we're, probably like 30% tooling type of situation from
and
an
also
investment perspective.
many of the tools you have now have already incorporated.
Exactly.
In fact, I would assume all.
And I think it's going to be a matter of figuring out which vendors are integrating it in the right way and where the gaps remain as it continues evolving quickly. So, I mean, I think that there's a need for us to invest more. So that's why we have to make more investment requests. And it's such a fast-changing landscape that you can't even really make long-term bets. It's really how do we overinvest in the right way to divest in the right way quickly to continue evolving with the threat.
Well, I think this matters for each different vertical that happens out there. I mean, you can have a 40%, you can have a 10% of your finances go to staff versus tools and technology. And obviously everything is going to incorporate it. I also want to incorporate that for my employees. I would want them to absolutely use AI as well. So that means then they're AI augmented, not just creating this barrier of like how much of my percentage of my budget is going this way or that way. But we see it escalating quite quickly because of how much can be done. But I think we're getting into a spot where people have overinvested as they're trying to figure out what actually works and doesn't work. And until that's proven out, then they're overspending until they will pull back that spending because they'll find the things that actually implement the way they should or need to or that work for them.
Okay. Oh, here's a good question from Jason Lawrence of Yancey Brothers. How are you using AI to upscale or train your team? Are you using it at all?
Oh, we're like all in.
Okay, so give me an example. Give us an example.
The ways in which we can, that mean time to decision, I think becomes really important in terms of being able to provide someone who doesn't have the scar tissue to be able to put together what like a set of log entries means or a debug or whatever, to be able to give them the context that they need to work quickly without having 20 years of debt and scar tissue in them. So I think that's a huge one, not having to use your higher level resources to provide that same interpretation. The more junior resources can just self-serve, which is huge.
For us, it's been a wholesale change into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it may be, but it's actually implementing shared resources, skills, other things that will impact us from both the branding, iconography, telling the language that we want to talk about and talk in. So that's been a huge part of creating from everything from slide decks and collateral to just having discussions and how we're automating day-to-day operations so that we can move faster, especially with customer interaction. Like being able to do that well means that we're adding human touches on top of what the things that need to be automated are, and everything else can be touched in a different way, and it makes a huge impact for us.
All right, very last question from Michael Francis of Wyndham Hotel and Resorts. So SOC is usually, like an entry-level position for a lot of people in security. So Michael wants to know, assuming we are all going in this AI automated SOC world, that is a trend. There's a lot of demand to do it. There's a lot of players in this space. Intezzer is one of them. Where are those SOC roles going to go?
I think you still have a SOC role, and that's what's different. If you can train people up within months instead of taking 5 years to train them with a process or a tool that actually gives them an understanding, especially from a SOC perspective, investigation and analysis, and then giving them something to talk back and forth with to know exactly what the top and the best analysts would do in the world, that's a wholesale change for what that job means. It just means that they don't have to sit through years of looking through nothing to try to get a few needles. You hand all the needles to them, and all of a sudden they've they've transformed completely. And then I think you're going to have a massive change in the way that roles interact with day to day from a SOC standpoint, whether it looks like people who are doing automations or context engineering. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but that was a big part of where you can take people to help them promote the organizational security and structure that needs to go into place, and to do that stair step that we talked about as well.
It's like the same question of what's going to happen with all the car mechanics when all the cars are run by computers, right? This is just a layer of abstraction. And
they still have to be fixed at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in certain ways, right? But a lot of other parts got completely eliminated. So it's, in my mind, it's bringing in that layer of abstraction. And I think it's right that people are going to be given a much more signal-rich environment to work in as a result of it. We're also going to eliminate a lot of things that are rote and repetitive and everything else. And honestly, what this is going to do is really bring out the people that can actually demonstrate real curiosity and unlock curiosity, and they don't have to toil away in a SOC for 4 years to figure out what the next step is.
Well, that brings us to the very end of the show. Let's hear it for our guests. Mitchum Bowles, CISO, Field CISO over at Intezer, and also to my immediate left, we have Nick Vigier, who's the CISO over at Oscar Health. All right, I also want to thank our phenomenal sponsor and the host of this wonderful show, AI SOC Live at the NASDAQ. Let's hear it for Intezer. Remember, it is AI SOC for the enterprise. Automatically triage, investigate, and respond to every alert at unmatched speed and accuracy. Huge thanks for Intezer. And remember, go to their website, intezer.com. Any last responses here? Any last comments here? Mitchum, got anything for us?
The SOC is the first place to start and the place to get the highest accuracy so that you can actually do other security programmatic things and strategize on what your next steps are with how fast things are moving.
Nick?
Get the basics done right and you'll be able to go as fast as you want with AI.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much to my guests. Thank you to Intezer, and thank you to our audience.
That wraps up another episode. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. We have lots more shows on our website, CISOseries.com. Please join us on Fridays for our live shows, Super Cyber Friday, our virtual meetup, and Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review. This show thrives on your input. Go to the Participate menu on our site for plenty of ways to get involved, including recording a question or a comment for the show. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, contact David Spark directly at david@cisoseries.com. Thank you for listening to the CISO Series podcast.